mix. Okay, speaking of the Super Bowl mix, our third topic for today, there are 3 teams in the AFC that are outperforming where a lot of people thought they'd be. Now, this is my producer, Kent, came up with this topic. He wanted to go, I think it was start, bench, cut. I'm not going to do that to anybody here because I think all 3 teams are good. And I would also say, like, the Broncos probably aren't outperforming where they thought they'd be. They thought they were a really good team coming into the year. A lot of people thought they were ready to make the leap, and they have made that leap. But I look at where the Broncos are right now, and of the 3 teams in the AFC that are those sort of surprise, leap, whatever you want to call it, teams, the Broncos, the Colts, the Patriots, which of the 3 is the most legitimate Super Bowl contender? And I'm going to give you the Denver Broncos. And I'm going to give you the Denver Broncos because I look at how battle-tested they are already and what they've gone through to get where they're at. And I look at the way that they were able to come back from behind in Philadelphia on that 10-day trip. Then on the other end of that trip, they wind up going and playing a New York Jets team they did not play very well against, but they're able to scratch out that win. And then they come back from way behind against the Giants. This is a team that's already got some pelts on the wall. They had to play the Chargers earlier in the year, and it was a devastating loss there. They lost in devastating fashion to the Colts, but both of their losses were very close. They could very easily be a 7-0 football team. And here's the thing. They're a well-rounded team that can win different kinds of fights. And I said this with the Chiefs, and I've said this with the Packers. Balance is really important when we're talking about what this is going to look like when we get to the playoffs. Of course, all these things are relative to injury. So the Patrick Surtain injury is worth keeping an eye on. But even if you look at that position, it's a good example of where they're at. They've got real depth at that position with young ascending players like Riley Moss, like Jedi Barron. There aren't real holes on the roster. They're balanced across the board. Do they have superstars all over the place? No. But they've got a quarterback who's capable of playing point guard and bringing out the most in some of their guys. Cortland Sutton, steady. Pat Bryant looks like he's going to be able to continue getting better over the course of the year. Dobbins and Harvey have brought in an element to the backfield that they didn't have last year. Ingram's an interesting weapon. They're a team that I could see adding a piece. Like I mentioned the Chiefs, right? Like, and the Chiefs maybe could add a piece in the defensive backfield. I mentioned the Packers. The Packers, to me, could add a corner. The Broncos are a team that, if you look at their roster, there really isn't an obvious place where you say, yeah, that's where they got to add. My colleague, Connor Orr, who I do the podcast with on the pod earlier in the week, he suggested maybe they go and get a tight end. That would make some sense to me if they get an inline tight end who could open things up for them to start to move Evan Ingram around a little bit more than even they are now. But this is a very well-balanced team. It's a talented team. And it's a team that's got a Super Bowl winning head coach that's playing in a very difficult environment in the AFC West that's going to make them battle-tested when we get to the playoffs. So those 3, and I like all 3 of them. I think the Colts, again, I think Daniel Jones and Lou Anarumo, those additions in the offseason really helped them unlock what was already a pretty talented roster. I think Mike Vrabel might be the coach of the year right now. Drake May's firmly in the MVP running with a roster that's still got its holes, but I think mirrors what the Commanders did a year ago. But to me, the Broncos, because just the totality of all of it, because the Super Bowl winning head coach, because the young quarterback who has a lot of experience from going through ups and downs in college, and just a roster that has a lot of answers on it, I would take the Broncos out of those 3. But I'm not playing your game on this, Kent. I'm not going to do start, bench, cut. I'm going to start the Denver Broncos with the other 2 ready to go.